This peninsula, facing south to the Antarctic Ocean, west to the Atlantic Ocean, and with a faint memory of the Indian Ocean, has been buffeted by social conflict for 3.5 centuries. Some of my ancestors settled here in the 17th century, and it has been my home for 30 years. But it is a broken home, which is held together by the music of the people whose labour built the city.
I like to tell a story in my family that the old man came here because he heard about the gold, and like a very ambitious young man, saved his money, jumped onto a boat, and he was going to come to Africa to get rich. And then he saw my grandmother and forgot all about the gold, and that's why we are here. And that must have happened many times in a port like Cape Town. Soldiers, sailors, adventurers, you name it. Because the local women were beautiful. They were an interesting mixture of slaves, Oriental, European, and that's how we developed what I would like to describe as a kind of a Creole culture that existed here. Something that took shape in this part of the world because of the various influences that impacted on this part of Africa.
You know, you're a person of color and you don't belong to the ruling class. So you're ostracized or divorced from that sort of society. And you're just a worker. Lots of people enrich themselves and don't think of the masses. Cape Town essentially still is a working colony.
That song is called Rosa, and it's the Afrikaans or the Dutch word for rose. But it's got a very oriental flavor to it, and obviously because the Dutch traded in the east and they came to the city of Cape Town as a halfway station, that there was a lot of cross-cultural mix that took place in our part of the world. can feel the melancholy of the sailor who has left his love behind, or his loved one. And one can also feel the melancholy of the slave who has left their homeland behind. The people who have kept these old songs alive are actually the working class people of Cape Town, who were the descendants of slaves that the Dutch brought here from the East.
In a situation where people couldn't own property, in a situation where people couldn't stay with their families, where families were separated, maybe the only thing I can hang on to are my songs. It's my language. It's my music.
Before the Europeans came here, it was part of the indigenous people's migratory route.
Right up to the 19th century, the settlers hunted the indigenous people of the Cape like animals. They fled and joined other groups. Later, during apartheid, if any black person wanted to come to Cape Town, they needed a pass and a job. If you're a woman, there was only one job you could apply for, and this was domestic work. By contrast, I, as a young white woman, could easily move to Cape Town and make it my home. I was lucky to be welcomed by the city and to learn about its music.
That type of singing introduces you to the overtones, the natural overtones, harmonic series, which you also find duplicated in bow music. And so the Xhosa scale has been spawned from this style of singing. It's called a hexatonic scale. It's a six note scale, and it's la la la. That's one element of it, and another one is la la la. And so the combination will be la 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 la. And lots of jazz use that particular scale.
Winston Mankunku, one of Cape Town's master musicians, supports Mkholisi on the release of his CD. And this music reminds me of the spirit of the late, great Judy Pukwana and Chris McGregor. Some of the leading musicians of the 20th century shaped their sound here in Cape Town. Often they were schooled in mission schools or participated in Christmas choirs where they learnt brass instruments.
I can remember Christmas choir when I was very small. I used to stay in Brooklyn. I stayed in Sterling Street up in District 6, opposite when they start building the Bloomer flat. It wasn't built that time, it was only starting to build. Then I moved to Brooklyn. In the morning, about 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock, you get people singing in front of your door. Their music was a spoon, 2 spoons, plunk, 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 they used to play, you know? And there was no guitar. Then as the years go on, I used to see a man, the name of Mr. Snell, Willie Snell. He used to make his own guitar. There was no saxophones this time. He used to make a guitar with a piece of wood and a piece of string, and then he used to play guitar with a horsetail, play guitar, or a piece of tin wire, and so it grows up. As you grow up, you don't think of that anymore. You start to come into the real thing.
One of the instruments that developed in this town, and it's a drum called the guma. Now, there's all kinds of stories how it originated, but if one takes into consideration that water and wine barrels, very much like the steel drums of Jamaica, was very much available in this part of the port, and that all you have to do is put an animal skin over it and you have a drum. The guma people use for walks, long walks. They didn't have, if you had to walk long distances at the accompaniment of the drum, or as accompaniment to dance.
The guma beat, it's a party rhythm.
The new year is always an occasion for celebration. So we've developed a very strong tradition of New Year celebrations in this city. And that is carnival time. And it's called carnival, maybe it's the wrong word, but it just stuck with us. In fact, it's even worse than that. It's been called cool carnival time. It's the time when the working class take possession of the city, where they dress themselves up in gay colors, when they paint their faces black and become lord and masters of the city for the day. And next week, back to your servitude, you know your place.